The ineffable dread, the nameless terror that gnaws at the edges of reality, is a sensation intimately familiar to any who dare to delve into the shadowed cosmology of Howard Phillips Lovecraft, a master weaver of cosmic despair. And tonight we shall journey into one such chilling tapestry, a narrative spun from the very threads of hubris and cosmic insignificance, into the heart of a tale that whispers of unimaginable guardians and a hierarchy of horrors beyond human comprehension. The Other Gods. Imagine, if you will, a world shrouded in antiquity, where the very mountains held secrets, where the air hummed with forgotten lore, and where humanity, in its boundless arrogance, dared to seek audience with forces that preferred to remain veiled. For in the vast, indifferent expanse of the cosmos, there are powers so ancient, so alien, so utterly beyond our grasp, that to merely glimpse their shadows is to invite madness, and to seek their essence is to court annihilation itself. Lovecraft, with his inimitable prose, invites us to ponder the very fabric of existence, to question the boundaries of our understanding, and to confront the terrifying truth that our terrestrial gods, our comforting myths, are but specks in an infinite ocean of older, more potent, and infinitely more malevolent entities, a concept he explores with chilling precision in this haunting short story. A foundational stone in his vast, mythic architecture of cosmic horror. Published first in the November 1921 issue of The Vagrant, and later cemented into the collective consciousness of weird fiction enthusiasts. Our journey begins not with a bang but with a quiet ascent, a measured climb towards a truth that Barzai, the wise, our protagonist, believed he was destined to uncover, a truth that would ultimately unravel his very sanity and existence. For Barzai, a priest of the ancient land of Manar, was not merely wise in the ways of men, but possessed an ambition that soared higher than the loftiest peak. An insatiable curiosity that drove him to transgress the sacred boundaries between mortals and the divine, between the known and the utterly unknowable, his heart a crucible of pride and intellectual hunger. Manar, itself a land steeped in myth and whispered legends, lies nestled within the dreamlands, a realm where the laws of our waking world often bend and break, where the mountains are more than geological formations, but titans slumbering, their peaks piercing the veil between dimensions. And it is upon one such formidable peak, the jagged, cloud-piercing summit of Hatheg-Kla, that Barzai sets his sights, convinced that upon its barren crest he will at last behold the gods of earth, those entities worshipped by humanity, believed to dwell in the highest reaches, their faces hidden from profane eyes, their voices carried on the mountain winds. Barzai, a man of venerable age, his beard a cascade of white, his eyes alight with a fervour that bordered on fanaticism, had spent a lifetime studying the ancient texts, deciphering hieroglyphs that predated recorded history, conversing with hermits in forgotten caves, and communing with the very spirits of the elder woods, accumulating a vast reservoir of arcane knowledge. Yet all this wisdom, all this accumulated lore, served only to whet his appetite for a grander, more immediate revelation, an unmediated encounter with the divine, a direct communion with the deities he had worshipped from afar, the benevolent, or at least indifferent, gods of earth, whom he believed would reveal themselves to one so devout, so learned, so utterly dedicated to their mysteries. He was not alone in his fateful expedition, for accompanying him was young Atal, a disciple, a mere boy, whose fresh eyes and impressionable mind would bear witness to the terrifying culmination of Barzai's quest. A witness whose account would later weave itself into the chilling legends of Mnar, serving as a cautionary tale for any who dared to emulate his master's hubris, Atal, himself a figure who would reappear in Lovecraft's later dream cycle stories, a consistent thread in the tapestry of forbidden knowledge and cosmic terror, his presence here as a mere apprentice, a silent observer, amplifying the dread of the unfolding events, for he, unlike Barzai, retained enough of his innocence, enough of his youthful trepidation to perceive the horror for what it truly was, unclouded by the intellectual arrogance that blinded his master. Together they ascended Hatheg-Kla, a mountain whose very name seemed to sigh with ancient secrets, its slopes rugged and forbidding, scarred by the passage of countless millennia, the air growing thinner, colder, the vegetation dwindling into hardy, stunted forms, the world below them shrinking into a miniature tableau of human concerns, insignificant and distant as they climbed higher into the realm where the air thinned to reveal the stark, indifferent face of the cosmos. The legends spoke of the gods of Earth dwelling on these peaks, but also whispered of a deeper, more primal truth, a truth that Barzai, in his singular focus, chose to disregard, his mind fixed on the familiar deities, those entities who, in their own vastness, were still comprehensible within the human framework of divinity. As they neared the summit, the atmosphere shifted, growing heavy with an unspoken presence, a palpable sense of the preternatural, the air crackling with an energy that was not of this world. The winds whistling not merely with meteorological force, but with a faint ethereal music that seemed to emanate from beyond the stars, a symphony of the void, a prelude to the unspeakable. Barzai, oblivious to the subtle warnings, his gaze fixed on the highest crags, pressed onward, his heart pounding not with fear, but with an ecstatic anticipation, believing himself on the verge of the ultimate revelation, the culmination of his life's work, a direct audience with the divine. Atal, however, felt a growing unease, a chill that had nothing to do with the altitude, a primal dread that whispered of boundaries not meant to be crossed, of thresholds guarding truths too terrible for mortal minds. His youthful innocence still capable of perceiving the subtle disharmony in the cosmic order, the warning signs that his master, in his learned confidence, utterly ignored. Finally, they reached the desolate windswept summit of Hatheg-Kla, a plateau of naked rock, stark and forbidding, where no plant dared to grow, and where the sky stretched overhead like an inverted bowl of polished obsidian, pricked by stars that glittered with an unnatural brilliance, seeming closer, colder, more numerous than ever before. Barzai, standing on the precipice, felt a surge of triumph, a swelling of pride that threatened to burst his very being, for he was there, at the rumoured abode of the gods, his quest seemingly fulfilled, his lifelong ambition within reach. He lifted his arms, his white beard streaming in the unearthly wind, his voice frail against the howling cosmic silence, calling out to the gods of Earth, expecting, perhaps, a majestic descent, a chorus of celestial voices, a vision of beatific splendour, the very apotheosis of his devotion. But what awaited him was not the gentle, familiar presence of the gods he knew, but something far, far older, something infinitely more alien, something that transcended even the most ancient of human myths, something that lay beyond the very fabric of known reality. The winds, which had been merely cold, grew colder still, carrying with them not the scent of mountain air, but a faint metallic tang, a smell utterly foreign to any terrestrial origin, a stench of the void, of cosmic indifference, of something utterly inimical to life. The sky, which had been a dark canvas, began to coalesce, to shift, to churn with an invisible agitation, a maelstrom of non-Euclidean geometries and colours beyond human perception, a swirling vortex of nothingness that was simultaneously everything. And from this nascent chaos, from the very heart of the abyssal zenith, there began to emerge not the forms of the gods Barzai had anticipated, but something else entirely. Something so vast, so formless, so utterly incomprehensible that Atal, shivering beside his master, instinctively pressed his hands over his eyes, his mind recoiling from the sheer magnitude of the unfolding horror. Lovecraft describes this unfolding terror with his characteristic mastery of suggestion, of hinting at the unspeakable without ever truly defining it, leaving the reader's imagination to fill in the most monstrous details, a technique that amplifies the dread exponentially. Barzai, however, his eyes wide with a combination of terror and a terrible dawning comprehension, could not tear his gaze away. He had sought the gods of earth, but what he found was not them, but their guardians, their overseers, the true powers of the outer void, those ancient nameless entities known only as the other gods. These were not deities to be worshipped, not beings to be placated, but forces of nature, cosmic principles, utterly devoid of mercy, utterly beyond morality, existing on a plane so far removed from human concerns that humanity itself was but an infinitesimal flicker, a momentary disturbance in their eternal indifferent dance. The other gods are hinted at as vast, formless, shape-shifting entities characterized by a black, tempestuous wind, a cosmic gale that carries with it the essence of the outer darkness, a presence that warps the very fabric of reality, bending light and sound to its own alien will. They are the ultimate custodians of the cosmos, the silent, omnipresent watchers, ensuring that the lesser gods, the gods of earth, do not reveal too much, do not extend their influence beyond their appointed spheres, do not transgress the cosmic order established by these elder, more primal forces. Lovecraft subtly weaves in the idea of a cosmic hierarchy, a terrifying bureaucracy of the universe, where even the most powerful deities known to man are themselves subservient to something far greater, far more ancient, far more terrifyingly impersonal. The gods of earth in this revelation are not absolute rulers, but merely potent inhabitants, allowed to exist within their designated domains as long as they adhere to the unwritten, unspoken laws dictated by the other gods, by the ultimate arbiters of cosmic truth. Barzai, in his final, agonizing moments of lucidity, understood this terrifying truth. His quest for enlightenment had led him not to transcendence, but to an encounter with the raw, unfiltered indifference of the universe, a realization that humanity, with all its gods and its wisdom, was but a fleeting, insignificant anomaly in an infinite, uncaring void. The black wind swirled around him, its unseen tendrils coiling, its formless bulk encompassing him, consuming him, dissolving him not just physically but spiritually, intellectually, reducing him to less than dust, to a forgotten whisper in the cosmic gale. Atal, though shielding his eyes, felt the immense pressure, the soul-shattering reverberation of Barzai's final, silent scream, the scream of a mind overloaded, utterly broken by the unholy magnitude of the truth it had glimpsed. A scream that existed purely in the boy's mind, a sympathetic resonance with his master's annihilation. He heard no sound, but felt the profound absence, the sudden void where Barzai had stood, swallowed by the black winds, by the other gods, who had silently risen from the outer void to claim their due, to punish the temerity of a mortal who dared to peer behind the curtain of reality, to seek knowledge that was never meant for mortal eyes. Atal, traumatized beyond measure, later recounted the tale, his voice trembling with a perpetual fear, his eyes forever haunted by the memory of that formless horror, that black wind that carried away his master and all his presumptions. He spoke of the other gods as those entities that guard the gods of earth, entities that dwell in the outer void, that are always present, always watching, always ready to descend upon any who challenge the cosmic order, upon any who seek to unravel the deeper, more terrifying truths of existence. And the gods of earth, in their quiet retreat after Bazai's disappearance, learned a terrible lesson as well, a lesson in humility, in the terrifying power of their own silent masters. Those entities whose true names are unspeakable, whose forms are incomprehensible, whose motives are utterly alien, and whose very presence is anathema to life as we know it. The thematic richness of the other gods resonates deeply within the larger Lovecraftian mythos, serving as a powerful allegory for humanity's fragile place in a universe that is not merely vast, but actively hostile to our quaint notions of order, purpose, and significance. Bazai's hubris is the central catalyst, his pride in his wisdom, his belief that his devotion and intellect granted him a special dispensation to behold the divine, ultimately becoming his undoing. This is a recurring motif in Lovecraft's work: the pursuit of forbidden knowledge, the transgression of natural, or rather cosmic, boundaries, inevitably leading to madness, destruction, or a fate far worse than death. Bazai is not simply punished for his curiosity, but annihilated for his presumption, for daring to believe that he could comprehend, he could face, he could even survive an encounter with the ultimate powers of the cosmos. His wisdom, so prized among men, proved utterly useless, utterly insufficient in the face of the truly ancient, truly boundless intelligence that lurked beyond the stars. The cosmic hierarchy introduced here is also profoundly unsettling. It shatters the anthropocentric view of the divine, the comforting idea that gods are somehow relatable, that they operate on a scale comprehensible to human morality or aspiration. Instead, Lovecraft posits a universe where even gods are merely cogs in a larger, infinitely more complex and utterly indifferent machine. The gods of Earth are not the ultimate power. They are merely residents, perhaps even servants, or at the very least, subjects of a higher authority. This layering of power, this revelation that behind every curtain lies another, more terrifying one, creates an infinite regress of horror, a sense that there is no ultimate sanctuary, no final truth that can bring peace or understanding, only deeper abysses of alien intelligence and boundless indifference. This concept subtly foreshadows and connects to the broader Cthulhu mythos, where entities like Azathoth, the blind idiot god at the center of the universe, or Nyarlathotep, the crawling chaos, the messenger and soul of the outer gods, represent these ultimate, formless, and terrifyingly powerful entities. The other gods of Hatheg-Kla could easily be seen as lesser aspects, or perhaps merely manifestations, of these ultimate cosmic horrors, their black wind a whisper of the chaos that permeates the true infinite void. Lovecraft's masterful use of language is on full display in The Other Gods. He employs a vocabulary rich in archaic and evocative terms, creating an atmosphere of ancient dread and timeless mystery. Words like unhallowed, cyclopean, abyssal, eldritch, preternatural and chthonic pepper his prose, each carefully chosen to conjure images of things vast, unknown, and terrifyingly old. He avoids explicit description of the other gods themselves, instead relying on suggestion, on the effect they have on the environment and on Barzai and Atal. This technique of indirection, of hinting at the unspeakable rather than defining it, is a hallmark of cosmic horror, allowing the reader's own deepest fears to conjure the most terrifying images, ensuring that the horror is personal and boundless. The Black Wind is a perfect example. It is a tangible force, yet utterly abstract, formless, a metaphor for the incomprehensible power of these entities, a force that consumes not with teeth or claws, but with an utter dissolution of being. The story also delves into the psychology of fear, particularly the unique brand of cosmic terror that Lovecraft championed. It's not the fear of a monster under the bed, nor the fear of a ghost in a haunted house. It is the fear of insignificance, the chilling realization that humanity, with all its hopes, dreams, and perceived importance, is utterly irrelevant in the grand scheme of the universe. Barzai's annihilation is not a punishment in the human sense of justice. It is merely the removal of an irritant, the silent closing of a gate by a force that doesn't even acknowledge the existence of the one it eliminates. This indifference, this absolute lack of malice, or even conscious awareness of humanity, is arguably more terrifying than any active malevolence, for it strips away any possibility of understanding, of negotiation, of even being recognized as an opponent. We are simply too small, too fleeting, too utterly inconsequential. The other gods can also be interpreted as a cautionary tale against spiritual or intellectual arrogance. Barzai's wisdom, his pursuit of truth, while admirable in a human context, becomes a dangerous flaw when confronted with cosmic realities. It teaches us that there are some truths best left undisturbed, some veils best left drawn, not because they are inherently evil, but because their reality would shatter the delicate framework of human sanity. The story, in its terse yet potent narrative, challenges the very foundations of anthropocentric thought, pushing the reader to confront the terrifying possibility that our universe is not designed for us, that we are merely accidental inhabitants of a cosmos ruled by forces we cannot even begin to conceive, forces that operate on scales of time and space that render human existence utterly meaningless. The enduring power of this story lies in its ability to instill a lingering sense of cosmic dread, a feeling that even when we think we have grasped the highest truths, there are always deeper, more terrifying layers of reality waiting to be revealed, guarded by entities whose very existence is a testament to our profound and terrifying insignificance. The tale of Barzai and Atal is a stark reminder that the pursuit of knowledge, while often celebrated, carries with it an inherent danger when that knowledge pertains to the truly alien, the truly unknowable. Lovecraft implicitly argues that there are certain truths that transcend human capacity for understanding, and to force oneself into contact with such truths is to invite not enlightenment, but utter dissolution. Barzai's fate is a tragic illustration of this principle, his lifelong quest ending not in beatific vision, but in a cosmic consumption, a complete erasure from existence by forces that move beyond all human logic and comprehension. The other gods are not mere mythological figures, they are conceptual entities, personifications of the cosmic void itself, of the chaotic, formless energies that predate and ultimately define our ordered, finite reality. Their appearance, or rather their non-appearance in any comprehensible form, is central to their horror. They are a black wind, a formless presence, a crushing indifference, a negation of all that is familiar and solid. This story, though relatively short, encapsulates much of what makes Lovecraft's work so uniquely disturbing and enduring. It taps into primal fears of the unknown, of the dark, of being alone in an incomprehensibly vast universe, but elevates them to a cosmic scale, making them truly existential. It challenges our presumptions of human supremacy, our belief in a benevolent or even comprehensible divine order, and replaces them with a universe governed by entities whose motives and forms are utterly alien, utterly terrifying. The chilling silence after Barzai's disappearance, the desolate summit, the return of Hatheg-Kla, forever scarred, these are the lasting images Lovecraft leaves us with, images that burrow deep into the subconscious, planting seeds of doubt and dread about the true nature of reality and our place within it. So, next time you gaze up at the vast, star-strewn canvas of the night sky, remember Barzai the Wise, remember the windswept peak of Hatheg-Kla, and remember the other gods who linger in the outer void, ever vigilant, ever waiting, their presence a silent testament to the terrifying grandeur and indifference of the cosmos. If you've been chilled by this journey into Lovecraft's world and yearn for more explorations of cosmic horror, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe for more Lovecraft videos as we delve deeper into the shadow-haunted corners of his mythos and beyond, uncovering the secrets that humanity was never meant to know. For there are countless tales yet to be told, countless horrors yet to be unveiled, and the universe, in its boundless and terrifying indifference, continues to spin its web of unimaginable dread, always reminding us that we are but fleeting motes in a cosmic dance of chaos, forever watched by eyes we cannot comprehend, by forces that care not for our existence, and by other gods who merely tolerate the lesser deities we foolishly attempt to worship. Their eternal vigilance, a chilling promise that any transgression will be met with the same formless black wind that swept Barzai the Wise into the absolute oblivion of the outer void. Thank you for joining me on this descent into the chilling heart of Lovecraft's The Other Gods. Until our next unsettling encounter, remain watchful and be wary of what truths you seek beyond the known. For some doors, once opened, can never truly be closed, and some knowledge, once gained, can never truly be unlearned, leaving only the indelible mark of cosmic terror upon the soul.